What's up, everybody? Rabid Hedgehog here, still with Indian of Oklahoma City and their used bike reviews. And today I'm going to take out one of the biggest and baddest motorcycles on the road right now. Seriously, this one is like 960 plus pounds. It's one of the heaviest production motorcycles out there right now, and that is the Star Venture motorcycle. Now, we've seen me do Gold Wings, we've seen me do Roadmasters, we've seen me do Ultra Classics, Ultra Limiteds. All these things don't weigh this much. This thing is absolutely heavy. 113 cubic inch engine there, putting it between Indian and Harley. Depending on which one you get, you either have 114 or 116, maybe even 111, so it is a little bit bigger than some of the Indians. You can see this thing kind of has a style reminiscent of a 1960s muscle car, early 70s muscle car, kind of like the old Plymouth Cuda, actually, in a sense. That's what it looks like to me. I actually don't mind the look of this motorcycle at all. Now, this is a retooled motorcycle from a couple of years ago. Yes, it's been a bit since I've actually rode one. The last one I actually rode was an Eluder. And the Eluder itself doesn't have the back tour pack on it and is a little bit lighter. But this one, of course, has the backrest on it. This one has some extra goodies on it and other things that push this thing probably pretty close to the 990 pound range just as it sits before we get anywhere. It's a pretty dang heavy motorcycle. All right, let's go ahead and climb up on this bad boy here. This thing has quite a interesting startup sequence on it, so go in, push it down, there we go, spin it a couple of times, and you'll get everything to come alive once you get that done. Of course, you do have fuel unlock and all that fun stuff right here. You do have storage. It's all locked at this time. Go ahead and unlock it so you can see where you can put your USB and some stuff to charge, calm gear, more there. There's little pockets in the lowers as well. It's not going to be a full pocket. You can see that you have vent activation there for the lower part of the lowers. Of course, this one has these added wind deflection on, which I'm gonna just fold like that right now. It's kind of warm today, so I can go through that. Big old mirrors hanging way out here. There we go. I've already tested the audio system actually a moment ago, you know, just to get this going, and it's not too bad. It goes up to 17 power. It's a pretty decent amount there. This is your fog lights right here. Flash to pass, push down. There's your bright. This is going to be your volume mute and all that good stuff right there. I'll turn it back down real quick. Horn, turn signals. Of course, this is for controlling your infotainment system. So you have your home button that takes you back to the main screen up there. This is not the most intuitive system, though. I actually prefer the systems probably from Harley and Indian a little bit more than this one. This one's kind of a little bit more not so intuitive. You can see it's kind of doesn't really respond to your touch. It is a touch screen, but you can't slide it like the Indian one and the Harley one. You can slide them, so this one you have to pretty much get the keys involved here on the handlebar so you can see your battery voltage, your air temperature, your fuel range, fuel consumption, front tire pressure and stuff like that. So it does have tire pressure monitoring in it. Of course, you can go through and here's all your seat heaters, windscreens and stuff like that controlled from the screen if you want to. So you can see that I went up on the windscreen there, down on the windscreen, so you can see gets up there pretty decently, gets down. Make sure that heater grips are off and heated seat is off. It is 86 degrees. There's no point to that. We'll go back there and set up your comms here. So information, tons of stuff that you can do through the entertainment center, or infotainment center, excuse me. You also have this button here, which is your windscreen control if you don't want to access it through there. You can access, of course, your modes through here, so you can turn it to touring mode, sport mode, all that good stuff. That's going to be over there on the left side. Cruise control is here, resume and set, hazard, start, engine cutoff switch. Does have your fuel gauge on your tachometer side. Turn signal separate sides. You do have manual control buttons for your trip odometers there and all that good stuff right there. So that can be still manually operated and everything. There's quite a few redundant controls on here. You either can find them through your infotainment screen, all that, or you can go through your redundancy. Reverse. Something needed for a 960-some pound motorcycle, that's for sure. So quite a few things happening here. Of course, this one has aftermarket accessories on it. It is a used motorcycle. Well, this is not my motorcycle. This is Indian of Oklahoma City's right now, so it is for sale. But I don't worry about cup holders or anything like that. So let's go ahead and get this thing going here. So at any rate, I guess let's go ahead and take this thing for a ride, see how it does. Ah, Rabid Hedgehog, you magnificent moron, forgetting to press the record button for the second time on the DR05X. Remember, when you're using a Tascam DR05 or DR05X, that you must press record twice, so that way you can have recorded audio. The first time is only to check the levels to make sure that it's recording correctly, and then that way you can see everything's good and press record to do the final thing. Unfortunately, I forgot to do this, so we're going to have to do a voiceover, so I do apologize, folks, on that. I did fix that by the T120 video for the Bonneville, and you can hear the audio is really good. Normally I use the Tascam actually at home, so this was the first time in the field. And sometimes you do forget about some of the funny things whenever you're using it for the first time. So at any rate, when it comes down to the Venture, I have to say that imitation is the best form of flattery. And that is what you're going to get in this motorcycle, is a very big imitation of American style touring bikes. One thing that Yamaha did with this bike, and it's something that they bragged about and they were proud about, was that they called in a whole bunch of American riders and they asked them what they wanted in a touring bike, and they basically focus grouped this thing to death. And that is kind of an unfortunate thing. When it comes to the Japanese touring bikes, I usually like them for being lightweight, a little bit smaller, a little bit more agile, and, you know, not American. If I wanted to buy an American touring bike, I'd go get a Harley or an Indian or Victory or something that was made by an American company. Now, if I want a true sport type touring bike, I would go to the Japanese or the Germans to have that feel. So this bike is a very big imitation, of course, the Harley Road Glides and also the Indian Challengers. Of course, this one predates the Challenger by a couple of years, but it definitely takes square shots right at the Road Glide with its fixed fairing and its more classic American looks, and the 113 cubic inch or 1854 cc air-cooled engine going with that big air-cooled engine was a big deal to American riders, and Yamaha put that in there. And I have to say that it's not a bad engine. I actually have to say that the engine itself is one of the strong points of this motorcycle. It's very reminiscent of the Bolt that we did a couple of weeks ago. And of course, I was very negative to that motorcycle because I just simply do not like the way it was put together. And sadly, this bike is almost in the same deal. I don't hate it as much as I do the Bolt because there's still some strong points on this motorcycle, but I don't particularly like it either. For such a big, hulking motorcycle, it feels so small to sit on. Its seating position is kind of weird. It feels like I'm sitting halfway on top of it and halfway in it all at the same time. Like my rear end is dragging the ground, but my knees are above my chin, and I do not know why it was like that. For a bike this big, you'd think they'd be able to put the floorboards a little bit more forward and a little bit more down, but simply they do not. So if you see my knees every once in a while, you'll see that my knees are actually rather above the tank. I'm 6 foot tall, and I have a 32-inch inseam. Now, when it comes to the engine, I do have to say that, like I said, it's fantastic. It does have one shortfall, and that is a very short red line. It's around
4,900 to 5,000 RPM, and it comes very, very quickly and jarring, actually, because usually you can get a good long run before you hit a red line on a motorcycle. And this one, the way the engine spins up and makes its power is phenomenal, but it does it so quick and it red lines that you're short shifting this bad boy rather quickly. And it's something crazy. You can see my knee there, how, like I said, it comes quite above the tank. You can see halfway up the thigh even is already above the tank. I mean, it's kind of amazing how short this bike sits. Now watch as we go through here. You're going to see I'm going to get close to that red line right around 35 to 40 miles an hour in first gear. It comes so quickly, and you can see that engine spins up very quickly to that red line. But the engine itself, like I said, it doesn't really vibrate. The power delivery is all right. You get up on the interstate and you're not pulling too many RPMs at all. But when you ask it to give power, it does it very quickly. The fueling is kind of off-centered in a way. It's very, very quick to come over onto power from mid-range up, but it's a little slow to start. And that's probably just because it's massive. But the 6-speed transmission, it shifts really well. The clutch itself is going to be a hydraulically actuated clutch, and whenever you're going into the engagement of that clutch, it's very smooth. It is a little bit of a heavier pull than expected, but not too bad. I've had worse on those, and you can probably reach the friction zone way at the end, and that's kind of a weird thing when you're dealing with such a big motorcycle. You want to use that friction zone to help you walk it and some other things. And with it being way out there toward the end, although it is a smooth engagement, it doesn't jar you out or anything like that. It is a 4.5, 4.7 out of 5, 5 being fully released and 1 being fully in. So you really do not have much friction zone to work with if you're using the power of the bike to walk it before fully disengaging. So that may not work for a newer rider. It will probably throw them off when they're expecting it to be in around the 3 range or so in engagement. So just remember that if you're looking at this bike as your first touring bike and you're used to a little bit different clutch travel. But overall, the suspension is great on this motorcycle. The front fork is going to actually have 5.1 inches of travel on it, which is not too bad at all. It is a 46 millimeter standard type fork. It does have a single monoshock in the rear, coming in at 4.3 inches of travel. And the preload adjustment is remote and easy to get to. It does have 2 massive dual hydraulic 298 millimeter front brakes and 320 millimeter back brake, and the system is unified, which means that if you slam on the back brake, it does bias a little bit to the front, and if you slam on the front brake, it does bias a little bit to the back automatically. So if you get in a sudden panic situation, this massive motorcycle weighing in nearly at half a ton comes down to a halt relatively well. So it does have a bright spot in the braking system, that is for sure. And something that's almost unheard of at a bike that starts at $24,999. We know that the Road Glide and the Street Glide and all those usually do not have the unified braking system until you get way up there in price. And we're talking about the CVOs, and some of the higher end ones are over $30,000 if you're adding it to the options list of the specials. So not a bad place to start. And that's kind of the downfall of this motorcycle, is that when they went and did this focus group, it's like they went back and kept taking things out of the notes and kept throwing it in there without much thought. And that is truly where I find this motorcycle as being a little bit sad. Because the way they threw everything in there, it doesn't feel put together right. It feels rushed. It feels like not everything was thought out. The screen itself, as you can see, it really does fade out in the sun pretty decently. You can't really reach it from the rider standpoint either. It's a touch screen. It should be allowed to be touched from riding, right? Kind of the same thing with the Road Glide. Why is it so far up there? If you put a touch screen on it, why take it away from us and we can't touch it? put it where we can actually manipulate it if we need to with a glove. If we are sitting still and stuff like that, we don't have to move up on the motorcycle. And also put a screen on there that you can read. It's also stupid. This is something I found really stupid when I was riding it. I was trying to access the navigation screen while in motion. It won't let you put on the navigation screen while you're in motion. That is kind of a dumb deal. I don't want to pull over and try to get a map. All I wanted to do was get a map of where I was going. And it won't let you do it. It says that you're in motion. You can't do that. It's real easy to do on an Indian. All you got to do is tap the left side a couple of times and your screen changes over. And now you have yourself a screen that has your Navi on it. And you can trace where you're going. So if you are somewhat lost, you can now have a map at least of the area without pulling over. You can see where you are. You can kind of get an idea and you can realign yourself and go. With this one, you have to pull over, find it all in this button, or try to reach up and touch it and find it while you're sitting still. That was a short-sighted action. Now, the engine braking on this bike, I'm using that right now, is also fantastic as well to go along with the unified braking system. So the engine, like I said, overall, and the transmission and everything like that is very good. I just don't like the clutch release if you're a newer rider. And I'll kind of touch point on that right there. Now, like I said, going back through these features and everything like that, heated grips, heated seats, lockable saddlebags, lockable everything central, power windshield and everything, that's not bad at all. The windshield itself is a very tall windshield coming on it. That is actually the stock windshield, and it gets very tall. That is in the lowest position, and you can see that my head is pretty much, well, almost all the way down. So my eye position, of course, GoPro being a little bit lower, is right at where the windscreen and the regular field of view meet. So you do kind of see that crease in your vision the entire time. When it comes to the wind, there's a tiny bit of buffeting at the top of my helmet with the windshield fully down. If you do move that up a smidge, it goes completely away. But on a hot day, you do want a little bit less windscreen and a lot more air. And I do wish that they would put a shorter windscreen on this bike stock, and then for people who are doing long range tours to choose this particular windscreen and put it on aftermarket. Now, these people put on these wind deflectors, and that made for a better ride. With the wind deflectors engaged and turned in the right direction, it was dumping air straight on me, and that was very much a welcome relief to the heat that day. Now, when it comes to the heat off the engine, there was barely any heat off the engine or anything like that. The only thing I'm really complaining about is how short that bike is at this point. So there was no heat complaint or anything of that nature. That is actually handled very well. I did have the lower vents open as well, so I don't know if you had the lower vents closed, if that would cause an issue with the heat getting up into your leg and stuff like that. But at least when they're open on a day like this day, where it was in the 90s, then you don't have to worry about it at all. Now you can see on this broken road, like I said, the suspension is fantastic. The travel was really good. The seat was comfortable as well. The mirrors are really good, and you can see very clearly out of them. Of course, they're far away from you, so you don't have to worry about your arms or your shoulders or anything really being in there because they are standing away from you, and you can get those tuned to where you can see the lanes next to you just fine. I know the GoPro doesn't show that, but I actually had very good visibility, and once again, that engine doesn't vibrate very much, so no weird field of view or vision or anything like that. So talking about the ergonomics in general, this is where this motorcycle, they should have stopped putting crap on it. Seriously, when you look at the grip on the right side, if you're trying to do that all just by feel and muscle memory even, you're still going to hit stuff wrong. You're going to try to reach over to the mode button and change that mode, and you're going to accidentally hit the engine cutoff switch. You're going to try to reach over for the hazard, and you're going to accidentally hit the start or the cruise control on. You're going to try to find something, and you're going to run into something because really it's not put together very well on that side. On the left side, there's a whole lot of things happening there too, where you're going to try to reach over to the flash to pass and the brake control switch, and you're going to accidentally probably drag your hand over there and take it home or change your radio station or something like that because it really isn't ergonomically put together well. They tried to put so many features on this bike that they ran out of room, but they also ran out of how to control it really well. When you look at the American motorcycles, They are controlled with joysticks and little flaps and other things that are very easy to get along with when you're riding with a gloved hand. Even you don't have to worry about looking down and thinking about it. You literally can do everything on the fly with your eyes up on the road like you're supposed to have, and you don't even need to look down because you know where your stuff ended up. That is something that this bike could have learned from, is having those controls and stuff. I really love the way the Indian does it because it has the two paddles on the back where you can sit there and control the screens and the lists and do all that, and you can also use the joysticks to control it with the Harley and stuff. So their screens are all intuitive and you don't have to worry about it. And you can see me kind of complaining right there about how everything is just a big honk, and as you're trying to drag over, you could possibly hit those things. And if you're really not thinking about it, or you're tired, or you've been on a trip for a long time, I don't see how that's not going to happen with all those buttons and everything like that. So it is a bummer to approach this motorcycle with pretty high expectations. It's a newer motorcycle. It's bringing the Venture line back, but it just doesn't have the charm of the Japanese touring bike. It tried too hard to be an American bike, and it's just simply not. It doesn't have the fit and finish of the American bikes. Everything feels kind of chintzy and plasticky. You can hear it rattling the whole time you're riding. Every bump, you can hear something in the fairing crackle and pop and things. And I know that that happens with American bikes too, but you would expect better. I mean, it's just one of those deals of you would expect better. When a Goldwing can hit something, or a K1600 bagger from BMW, or some of the other foreign touring bikes, or even Yamaha's own FJR, you can ride those bikes forever and ever, and you never hear anything get loose. Unfortunately, this bike, not very old, has already got loose components on it and doesn't feel like the big bike it is. It feels kind of chintzy whenever you kind of listen to all that, and that's kind of a sad deal. It's kind of a motorcycle that I really, truly wished would have been better, but it tried too hard to be something it's not. And I really hope that if Yamaha comes back at this, they might put an inline 4 in it or something that takes it away. Because the thing is, it's like, why ask American bikers what they want? They're going to clearly want the American V-twin. When Honda is unashamed of being Japanese and doing a flat 6, and BMW is unashamed of being German and doing a straight 6, and putting all their technology in a different way, in a different package, and making it controllable and simple and easy to use, and all this other things. There's just so many things that the other companies have done right that this bike coming out in 2018 feels still so far behind them, that this bike is definitely the last place touring bike of all the ones I have rode, which is a sad deal. I really, really was hoping this bike would be better. I actually like the Eluder better, oddly enough, even though it's got similar controls. I just like the way it is because it's lighter. It's a little bit more bare bones, and it's got the shorter windscreen and everything on it. It just for some reason I like the aesthetics of that one, and the way it rode, it actually felt a little bit different too. I didn't feel like I was half on and half off of it. I felt actually really well planted on that one, but I don't know, just something different about this one. And it could have been a lowering kit. It could have been something. It could have been the fact that it had the backrest already added to it. There's just something about this one that didn't quite mesh well with me. So at any rate, this is the Rabid Hedgehog. If you do have any questions about the Yamaha Star Venture Transcontinental, please let me know in the comments below. I'd like to thank my sponsors, Law Tigers of Oklahoma, also Doug Crawford with AMSOIL, and Derek Enloe Insurance, and also my gear partner AGVSportUSA for supplying our riding gear, our entire team's riding gear. We have, like you can see on here, the flannel jacket, the 130, which is in the James color, which is that blue color. Also my Mercury gloves. Those are actually ones I purchased on my own because I wanted to see what they were like. I had the Mayhems. I wanted to see what the cheaper variant was, what they can do in the summer, and they're a little bit more that summer grade glove, a little lighter, and I've been using them kind of ever since I bought them. They're fantastic. Also the Metro jeans with their ballistic slide panels and everything like that, very comfortable, has the moisture wicking ability as well. So they're fantastic jeans. If you're looking for great riding gear, visit AGV Sport USA. I'll put Moto Monkey and AGV Sport USA links down in the description below as well. So give them a shout out, support them. If you like what you see, please like, share, subscribe. I promise you I'll do better with audio. Don't have to do these very often, but when I do, it kind of annoys me. And it might annoy you guys too. So at any rate, keep that shiny side up, folks. We'll catch you on the next ride.
What's up, everybody? This is the Rabid Hedgehog. We once again want to thank you for watching our videos. Please like, share, subscribe today, and if you like what you see, mash that notification button so that way you get our latest videos and notifications live and on the spot. We also want to thank our dealership partners, Indian of Oklahoma City, House of Kawasaki, and Motorcycle Works Moto Guzzi, who is also our motorcycle mechanic. We want to thank them for allowing us to ride their rides. We are not paid in by any way by any manufacturer or dealer. We just get to be mad men and women with opinions. We also want to reach out to our sponsors and thank them. We have Law Tigers Motorcycle Lawyers. These motorcycle lawyers are mostly nationwide and can be reached 24/7 at lawtigers.com or 1-888-868-0208. We also want to thank our newest sponsor for gear and the things that you see us wearing, AGVSportUSA. They are out of AGVSportUSA.com in Flower Mound, Texas. We also want to thank Doug Crawford and AMS Oil for protecting our machines with the latest in lubrication technologies. He can be found at usasynthetics.com or 405-388-6170. And also for Derek Enloe and Associates Insurance Company, he can be found at 405-261-1010. Once again, everybody, keep that shiny side up, and we'll catch you on the next ride.